Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about using the Russian 6B 14 Podnos mortar in Arma Reforger and understanding the protractor and pretty much just how to use this mortar, this system, because I know a lot of people are struggling understanding the protractor, for example. A lot of you guys put in comments on my post about how you wanted to understand the Soviet protractor and just pretty much mortars in general. That's what we're doing in today's video. So if you didn't already know, to get access to all the mortar functionality in the game, as of right now of recording this video, you need to be the level of captain, which is probably I think it's the 4th level that you need to get out of, I think it goes private, corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. So, sorry, 5 levels altogether. So you need to get to the 5th level. I apologize. What you can do is you can either, you have a few options here with your mortars, actually. You can either build them on your base, as you can see here. I can build the 2B14 mortars here. Or, if you're going to do what I'm going to show in this video, you can actually do it completely on your own, free, away from any sort of base. This way that I'm showing you has its downsides. And there are some ways around it, but for this instance, I'm going to show you probably the most complicated way because I'm weird like that. So what I'm going to do is spawn in a construction truck, and we're going to fill it with supplies. Hypothetically, right? So we filled up our construction truck with 550 supplies. Now I want to decide, where am I going to build this mortar? I'm thinking here at the harbor in Mo. I'm going to put a marker down so you guys can see. So around here. Now you may be wondering why I'm choosing that. And something you do need to take into consideration when using mortars is your elevation, your actual elevation, and also the elevation of a target. So as you can see here, we're at 0 meters on the right side of the cursor. It says 0M, which is 0 meters. And also our grid reference 043095. So we're going to move to that location and we're going to set up our mortars. Okay, so we have arrived and we are at sea level. So now what I'm going to do is obviously build our mortar pits. So we've dug up our mortar pit and we're pretty much ready to go. Sort of. So now what you're going to need is hopefully a buddy, because this is going to be very difficult doing it by yourself, or a fellow running supplies. Now you're going to need supplies to be able to run these mortars outside of a base. A lot of people like to put their mortar pits inside of supply depots, like you'll find near Fagari or the industrial compound southeast of Entredu. I just spilled Pepsi on my keyboard, but whatever, it's waterproof. I'll still tap it out. What you're going to need to do is have a full truck loaded of supplies and we can get started. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to use Montagne as an example, maybe even the farm. So we want to, somebody's called out on radio that they need mortars on Montagne on grid 051069. As you can see, marked with this symbol. And also take note of the elevation. It's 175 meters above sea level. There's a bit of math in this, and look, honestly, I don't think y'all are silly. I think y'all know what's up. So I'm sure you can count to 10. We can figure this out, right? So unfortunately, everything here is in Russian. And thankfully, the developers have actually just put some symbols here on each page. So when you grab your tablet, just hold down the inspect button. And as you can see here, you've got previous shell type, previous page, next shell, next page. So this page here, when you first pull one of these out of the box, is the high explosive. And as you can see there, it says 4. Now, every mortar in the game has rings. And if you don't know what rings are, essentially it's just a weight that helps lob the mortars further. So the more rings, the heavier the shell. The less rings, the lighter the shell, right? So you can either adjust the shell amount by holding down F. Oh, well, excuse me. You can actually adjust the amount of charge rings by inspecting the round in your hand. So by holding R and looking at it and holding F and using scroll wheel to change the amount of rings. Now, I don't exactly know how this works on console. There was a discussion that we had that somebody thought it was broken, but there is a way. It's just very weird. So I'm sorry, I don't remember the keys or like the buttons that you need to use. But hopefully somebody in the comments can sort of resolve that for us. So in this instance, I'm going to just leave 4 rings on. But if you wanted to, you could use less if your engagements are closer. As you can see on the far left, it's got M, which is the distance that you want to shoot your rounds. So these are effective between 400 meters and they're in 100 meter increments all the way to 2.3 kilometers or 2,300 meters. At the right of that, this is the milliradian, which is what you will set your mortar tube to. So if you want, say, for example, to shoot 400 meters, you set your milliradian to 1,418. So right here on the top left corner, you can see that there is a bar. You'll probably know this. And I'm going to hit the second last one, which looks like a pencil. And I'm going to mark my location by just left clicking and dragging myself all the way down to Montauk here. As you can see, it leaves a nice red line. I don't know how far this is, okay? So we're going to use this protractor here to help us. People think it's a lot different compared to the American one. It looks different, but it does the same things to an extent. I could take this here and put it to my location right on the tip of my drawing. So I'm going to put it right here, roughly center. It doesn't have to be perfectly accurate. Now, as you can see down the bottom here on the outside, there is a whole bunch of red numbers. Now, if you look at a compass in game, north will always be 0. North is always 0 no matter where you are in the world. The azimuth reading on the protractor from my location is going to be 162. So if I open up my compass and look roughly that way. So Montauk is roughly this direction, right where I'm looking. Now that we know it's 162, we can go to our mortar calculator. And as you can see down the bottom here, right at the bottom where this these numbers are moving, that 140 right there, we need to set that to 100 and what was it again? 162. Now you can either use the A and D keys to move a bit quicker, or if you can use your mouse. But for this instance, I'm going to set it to 162 or 2,700 mils. So now that is pointing right in the direction of Montauk. Now, the distance. How far away are we? As you can see, in the middle here, there is a cross and a 0. Now, each of these is in 100 meter increments, all the way to 900 on both directions. So this protractor is a little funny. It's 1800 long completely instead of like sort of a, a rounded off number, which is kind of funny, but whatever. So if I mark the top here with this 900, I can see right here is 1800. And what I usually do is just mark it with a pencil like that. And now I can go out of there, bring this forward and add the difference, right? So if I wanted, I could go like this. 1800. Oh, wow, look at that. So these mortars are not reaching Montauk. That's a problem. Do you know what that means? We need to set up some more mortars. Okay, so To make this a bit more interesting, I've just moved my location to Moonstone Pond here. I'm going to make a mark. We'll just go through what we learned. So I still need to launch rounds into Montauk. It might be easier for you if you maybe have some sticky notes just to remind yourself, because even someone like me, I'm very forgetful with numbers. So maybe it's worth actually having a sticky note or some notes around if you want to be doing this. So, protractor back out. Now I know this thing is set to 0. Boom. So 19 degrees. Now, you know what? I genuinely don't know what these markings are here for on the inside, but I just know that the outside and the inside are the most important. Okay, now the distance. I need to check the distance. So from here, okay, so it's about 1590. 1590, so, you know, we'll say 1600. Now, because the elevation of Montauk is actually higher than my location, that either means my round is going to be far or short. Can't remember exactly. Short. By about 200 meters. But if we look here, it's almost 200 meters above sea level, right? So we could sort of just do some real basic math. I'm going to, in my mind, add 200 meters to... So we want pretty much 1800, don't we? Now this is why it'd be very good to have a group of friends doing this. You know, a guy maybe recons or spotting for you so you can adjust your rounds. And a guy also doing supplies, because in a game of conflict, especially if you're not set up in a base or set up near a supply depot, you're going to need to be running supplies, because these things will chew through supplies. Whoop. Okay, it was a little bit far. Now you need to remember as well, as you are firing rounds, until when you've actually like got everything set, take note of it, because as you fire rounds, the mortar will move. So you need to actually readjust the mortar to the right setting, because it will move and the rounds will stretch. Okay, still a bit short. So we need to go back down actually. It's not by much. 1100. See how that goes. I find it, me personally, it's quite difficult getting, like, shooting uphill. It's just like a finicky thing in my mind. I'm sure there's an easier way to figuring it out. I was close. Okay, so we've almost got it dialed in. Now, I think it'll land in this little bunch of trees here. Hopefully. That's what I'm hoping for. Oh, it's actually a little bit far. But perfect. That's a really good spot. And I'm going to fire off a few rounds. Let's see how this goes. It's funny how much deviation there actually is. It's always good to call out your mortar fire on radios. Let people know. Like, communication is a big key. Not a lot of people take it into consideration. People are too busy in their game chats and in their discords to communicate with the actual people that they're playing with, which is everybody. Okay. We're dialed in. Now you can continue this for as long as you need to. So now let's move on to illumination shells. If we get out our tablet, or our, whatever you want to call it, water table, you can see here this explosion icon is high explosive. You'll see these icons both on the American and the Soviets. I want to change the page to illumination. So this one here is smoke. And that has an effective range of 1700 meters. This is Illumination, as you can tell by the flare icon. Now, every shell has a different sort of velocity and weight. We know the distance from the location, it was roughly 1800 meters. So now we need to set up our mortar to 10,009. Now, I'm going to make it a bit less. Maybe 990. And we're still at 18 degrees. Yep. Now, the Illumination rounds are quite funny. So, what you can actually do is they have a fuse timer. Now, the automatic, it's fine. Works perfectly. I don't think you need to change it. But for the instance of this video, I'm going to show you what the fuse is going to do. So, we've got this one set on automatic, and we're going to launch a shell at Monty. One round out. That's weird. I wonder if it's bugged. 10.5 seconds. I would have assumed the automatic timer would have worked. That's funny. It's going to land over here somewhere. Is that it up there? That's it up there. About 28 seconds. 29. Let's go 29. Okay. Let's see how this goes. There it is. That's so cool, man. Look at that illumination. Now, I wonder if we adjust the rings to maybe like 37 seconds. That'll probably bring it closer to the ground. Okay, so they didn't detonate because they hit the ground. And the way you can figure that out, funnily enough, is if you look at the tablet here, where I've got the 1800. See how it says 31.2? That's like distance to target. Okay, so if I've got it anything less than 30, I think we're good. So yeah, 37 seconds, that's just too much. So, you know, if you've got it on 30, that'll be detonating very close to the ground, which I don't think is very good. I think you want these as high, you know, there's a fine line, but you do probably want these as to detonate as high as possible for the most amount of light, well, lighting time. Yeah. So that's not optimal, realistically. But, you know, maybe you do want it. Maybe it's a bit of a distraction. Okay, and now let's have a look at the smokes. Again, this is not anything you can adjust. It's just the rings. But I'm going to go to my tablet and go back a page to the smoke. Two, three. No rings, 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings. Okay, so that's actually the maximum, dude. So the smoke have got like the weightiest rounds. So 851 for the smokes. We're really stretching out the mortar shells right now, so. Yeah, it didn't go any further. So keep that in mind. If you want to use smoke rounds, you got to be closer. You got to be 1800 meters or less, and you need to take into consideration the elevation differences. So technically, because this is 175 meters above sea level, so we're about 100. Okay, so we're about 115 meters difference. So that mortar needs to be shooting at about 1915 meters to be able to reach where our buddies are located right now. So the smoke isn't going to reach. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say about the mortars. Hopefully you've got a better understanding of how the how to range your mortars, how to use the protractor. All you need to do, by the way, is hold middle mouse button to spin this around and left mouse button to move it around. And fun fact, actually, if it's crooked and you want to straighten it, just double tap middle mouse button on it. That'll set it to 0. The things that you need to take into consideration when you're doing this is A, your location. Be very mindful of where your location is, how far your mortars can reach. That is what makes the biggest difference, and knowing exactly the coordinates of where you're firing. If you have friendlies that want mortars on a location, it's not hard for them to give you a grid reference. All you need to say is, I need a grid reference, and if they say 051069, as you can see on the top here, you can see the numbers all the way from 03 to 06, etc, etc, and same down the left and the right hand side. If you have a rough idea on their location, just use your mouse and look at the numbers here: 052070, 049070, 049069. And, of course, you can get them to mark it with markers. That is probably the most efficient way of doing it, with a red dot or a green dot or whatever you like. That makes it easier for you, and it makes it more accurate than just a grid square. I hope I covered everything for you guys. If not, you know, be sure to leave a comment, ask any questions. Be more than happy to help you guys out. I am not very great at explaining everything, but hopefully in editing and everything else, hopefully it's understandable. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been my in-depth guide on how to use the, I always forget the name, 2B14 Podnos mortar, the Soviet Army in Arma Reforger. If you haven't already, hit subscribe for more Arma Reforger content, and be sure to join our Discord. Everything, links and everything are down in the description. Have a lovely day, guys.